In 1959, 9 hikers cut their way out of a tent from the inside and ran barefoot into 30 below darkness. In 1587, an entire colony of 115 people vanished without leaving behind a single body. 3 men vanished from a remote island outpost in perfectly calm conditions. No struggle, no bodies, no answers. Hundreds of people danced themselves to death in the streets of Europe for 2 months. No one could stop them. These are real historical cases, documented, investigated, and were never solved. For most events, that is enough. For these 8, the evidence only deepens the question, and you are about to see why. Every mystery in this video was investigated, some repeatedly across centuries. The answers never came. But the oldest mystery on this list didn't happen on a mountain. It happened in the middle of a crowded street in 1518. A woman named Frau Trophäa stepped into the street and began to dance. For 6 days she danced, alone, without music, without rest. By the end of the week, 34 people had joined her. They danced through the night. They danced with bleeding feet. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Some suffered strokes. Some had heart attacks. At the height of the plague, 15 people were dying every single day. The city constructed a stage and hired musicians, believing the dancers simply needed to exhaust themselves. It changed nothing. In September, 2 months after Frau Trophäa first stepped into that street, it stopped, and the reason died with them. The dancing plague is not the only time history is supposed to provide answers. These 8 cases provided none. But some mysteries don't happen in village streets. They happen on a frozen mountain, where 9 experienced hikers walked into the dark and never walked out. In Strasbourg, they couldn't stop moving, but on a frozen mountain in 1959, 9 people stopped forever. On the 1st of February 1959, 9 experienced hikers made camp on the eastern slope of Kolatchiakal, a mountain whose name, in the local Mansi language, translates to Dead Mountain. In the early hours of the morning, something drove 9 experienced hikers out into the cold, without their shoes, without their coats, into temperatures of 30 degrees below zero. Their bodies were found scattered across a half-mile radius. Then investigators found something that made no sense. 2 victims had shattered ribs, injuries consistent with the force of a car crash, with no external bruising. 1 woman was missing her tongue. Several bodies showed radioactive contamination that could not be accounted for. And that was only the beginning. The investigation was sealed. The files were classified for decades. When they were finally released, the official conclusion told the world nothing. The hikers had died as a result of an unknown compelling force. No cause, natural, criminal, or otherwise, has ever been confirmed. But the unknown does not only consume people in modern times. In 1587, 115 English men, women, and children established a settlement on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. 3 years later, the colony's governor returned from England to find the settlement completely empty. Not abandoned in haste and not destroyed. The buildings had been deliberately, carefully dismantled. The only clue left behind was just 3 letters carved into a wooden post. CRO. Then the only person who could have solved it never even tried. The governor never searched it. A storm forced his ships back to England. He did not come back. In the centuries since, expeditions have found fragments, European tools, scattered metal objects, but not one confirmed record of what happened to any of the 115 people who vanished from that island. History is filled with mysteries that should not exist. Subscribe now for more stories that were never solved. Sometime between 1404 and 1438, someone produced a book. 240 pages, dense flowing text in a consistent, practiced hand, illustrations of plants that do not exist, astronomical diagrams that match no known star charts, human figures immersed in liquid with no clear purpose. For 600 years, nobody has read a single sentence of it. The world's greatest codebreakers studied it during the Second World War and failed. Modern artificial intelligence systems have analyzed every character, every pattern, every statistical structure in the text. And still nothing. Whoever wrote this book, and whatever they were trying to say, has remained completely hidden for over 6 centuries. And there is no reason to believe that will ever change. Some mysteries leave behind no people at all, only empty chairs, and locked doors that should have been open. The Flannan Isles are a remote cluster of rocks 20 miles off the west coast of Scotland. In December 1900, a supply vessel approached and found the lighthouse dark. When the crew boarded, 3 keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, were gone. The beds were made, the clock was wound. A meal sat half-eaten on the table. The logbook held one final entry that contradicted everything. The last log entry, dated December 15, 1900, described a storm the like of which I have never seen, but records showed no storm of significant force had hit the islands on or around that date. No bodies, no trace, a functioning lighthouse, calm weather, 3 experienced keepers, gone, 3 men on a rock in the ocean, and not one of them left a clue behind. Not every mystery is centuries old. Some happened within living memory. On Christmas Eve 1945, a fire broke out in the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder escaped with 4 of their 9 children. The house burned to the ground in under an hour. The remains of the other 5 children, not one of them was ever found. The rubble was searched, the basement was excavated, the entire property was combed. Nothing. Then evidence surfaced that the fire was no accident. The family's phone line had been cut before the fire started. The ladder was missing. The trucks would not start. For decades, the family maintained a billboard on Route 16 displaying their children's faces and one question: do you know what happened to us? In 1968, 23 years after the fire, a photograph arrived in the mail. It showed a young man bearing a striking resemblance to one of the missing children. The sender was never identified. 3 years later and half a world away, another body appeared with no name. On the 1st of December 1948, the body of an unidentified man was found on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. Impeccably dressed, no identification, no wallet, no confirmed cause of death. Every label had been carefully removed from his clothing. Hidden inside a concealed pocket in the lining of his trousers was a small piece of paper. On it, 2 words printed in Persian: Tamam Shud, it is finished. What happened next defied every expectation. The paper had been torn from the final page of a rare edition of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The book was found abandoned in a nearby car, with a handwritten phone number and an indecipherable code written inside. The code has never been broken. And the phone number led to a woman who denied knowing the dead man. She was never charged. A 2020 facial reconstruction depicted the Somerton man. DNA identified him as Charles Webb, but South Australian police have not officially confirmed it. The file stays open. But long before any of these cases, there was the oldest vanishing at sea mystery. In December 1872, a British crew spotted a ship drifting in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was the Mary Celeste, an American merchant vessel that had departed New York 8 weeks earlier. The crew boarded and found it perfectly seaworthy. The cargo was intact, the food stores were full, personal belongings were untouched. Only the lifeboat was gone. There was nothing stolen, nothing broken, no note left behind. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his family, and his 7 crew members had simply left a fully functioning ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. In the 150 years since, no confirmed explanation for why they left, or what became of them, has ever surfaced, and none ever will. 8 investigations, 8 open files. History recorded these events. It never explained them. Share this video with someone who thinks they know everything about history, and subscribe for weekly deep dives into the unexplained. Some mysteries just fade with time. These only became darker.